one of the things that you've done, apart from written amazing books and studied Kierkegaard, is that you've been a boxing coach for many, many years. And so learning about that got me have a question in my mind is that what was the connection for you between boxing and philosophy? And is there a connection? If so, what drew you to that connection in the first place?
Yeah, so, I mean, I did it for personal reasons. I grew up in a very violent
Mm,
environment, and, so it can't it seemed to me to be a good idea to know how to defend yourself. It's very important, and, uh, uh, everyone wants to so there was a definitely a motivation that came from my background, there, but, it also is, I've argued in terms of there's certain, virtues that it helps you develop. For example,
mm,
you can't be a really proficient boxer unless you learn how to control your emotions. The first time, a couple of times you spar, you just go wild and blah blah blah.
mhm,
So it helps you develop the temperance, which from an Aristotelian point of view is self-control, and also the knowledge of your emotions, because you can't control your emotions if you don't know what they are. It also helps you learn to cope with anxiety. My fighter's boy, the first few fights you have are terrifying. I trained guys in the military in boxing, and these are I couldn't believe it. These guys were one of them was going into the SEALs. I mean, badass stuff, right? I
mm,
mean, right? I say, and they were more anxious to seem to. I said, you seem like you're more anxious about this amateur bout than you would be about jumping before lions, behind lions. And they're like, well, I don't want to get my ass kicked in front of my friends, you know. So it's funny. No, but the anxiety that it gives you one of the few places in much of society in America, at least the privileged parts, where you're cosseted from anxiety, from fear, always protected at it. And then all of a sudden you're thrown in the ring with your wife's got cancer. You know what I mean? Something
mm,
terrifying. And you don't really
mhm,
have any practice at
mm.
having to deal with anxiety. And that's not true for all classes of people, but boxing is really can be really helpful for learning how to master how to and with Mike and Mike Tyson and everything. His teacher always said that anxiety, if you don't let anxiety turn into a forest fire, it's your best friend because it makes you alert and aware. And I remember, like, I've had certain fighters over the years that either they'd be sleeping before the fight. I said, you know what you know what you're going about to go into, man? You're going in the lion's den, baby. You're going in the friggin' lion's den. And they're not anxious. And it was either a knockout or they'd get knocked out, you know? So it does help with developing certain Aristotelian certain virtues: courage,
Yeah.
anxiety, self-control. The connection with the connection with philosophy sort of came like this. I was criticized back in those days. How can you be building people's minds up while you're letting them get their brains knocked out? And well, one answer is uh, Kierkegaard always taught that the riskiest strategy in life was to live a risk-free strategy, right?
Mm,
And
mhm,
so there's certain things you could pick up from boxing, but also some of the people in philosophy didn't realize how aggressive and argumentative the philosophy is. I mean, in philosophy, if you want to score a unanimous decision, you might be a grad student, go to a talk given by a famous lecturer, ask a question that person can't answer, and
mhm.
your teacher will go, "Yeah, man, you just scored a." So, and I always said I'd rather get a punch in the nose anytime than have my someone show me that an argument I've been working on for 6 months is just crap.
Mhm,
And so philosophy. If you go back to Socratic dialogues, right?
mhm.
Socrates would have these dialogues in front of people. There'd be masses of people there seeing who's going to win. So it's an aggressive sport, philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, even sticking to that era, I know that Plato was a wrestler too,
Yeah,
so
champion wrestler. Yeah,
it's yeah, so it's these things have been embedded into the ideas way before our modern era. You were talking a little bit about anxiety and I guess, and fear. And I want to kind of give advice to people watching about how to kind of improve in those areas. So
Mhm.
on the idea of courage, how is it that, exposing yourself to fear and anxiety over time helps you? What is the idea behind that? What have you seen through, teaching people and training people that is within them, the human mind, that exposing yourself to fear helps you over time?
Well, I wouldn't say go out of your way to expose yourself to fear. You know what I mean? To unboxings, I'd always recommend that if you're going to try book at boxing or mixed martial arts or some combat sport, make sure you're going to the right gym. A lot of gyms they just
Hmm.
are really bad. They'll throw you into spar over your head, and it's not a good experience at all. So it's got to be in a supervised environment where somebody knows what they're doing. I mean, I think it's really important. There's a lot of nut jobs in my sport.
Mm,
But one of the lessons there is not to get panicked about feeling panicked. You
mm,
know, like yesterday, so working on this book with Mike. Uh, I'm nervous as hell. I feel like I
mhm,
was in the dressing room before a fight.
mm,
Right, I'm like sitting there waiting. Oh, Mike's coming on. I'm in really, and the idea would be don't freak out. It's just don't freak out about feeling anxious. That's
mm,
part of it. No, don't get. That's part of what it is to be human, and it shows you're alert, attentive. Even one of the greatest American philosophers, William James, I think maybe the greatest of all. Not that there should be rankings, but he was a psychologist. Wrote these 2 volumes on psychology, and he talked about anxiety and fears keeping you alertness, attentiveness. It makes you attend. So
mm.
it's a self-preservative function in many ways.
How do you, sorry to interrupt, how do you in that moment then, you mentioned when you're feeling the anxiety and the shortness of breath, is there a thing you tell yourself to kind of make yourself aware and like okay with the fact that this is all happening?
Yeah, you could self affirmations here. And I did recite some things to yourself.
Mm,
For example, I hear I'm using a personal example. I was because he canceled on me. He had to cancel on me a couple of days before. I'm like, oh fuck, don't do this again. Because I get jacked up. You know what I mean? I mean, I really.
yeah,
Yeah, and I got a contract. I have a
yeah,
contract for this book with him, and
mm,
so I'm telling myself, just he's a friend, take it easy.
mm,
Things could be going on in his life that you don't know, but
mm,
and
mm,
you're a good person, don't you? You have good intentions
mm,
here, and
mhm,
so sometimes those affirmations work. Clearly, breathing. I mean, everyone rightfully points out the importance of breathing exercises. Like one
mm,
I use with my boxers, and it's hard to get a lot of them to do it because they don't take it seriously. But uh, you're supposed to say inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 1, and then exhale for a count of 5. And you do that, and there's apps for that naturally, like for everything else. But
mm,
it's a really easy exercise to do anywhere. But you got to do it. You can't just do it once. You got to make it a part of your practice.
mm.
Okay, I'm getting anxious. Calm down, right? And so I think the breathing there is a really concrete way of thinking about
Yeah,
calming
I
down. And
mean,
again,
mm. I was just gonna say, I mean, like thinking about my experience of being like, I remember I told you I started martial arts a couple of years
yeah,
ago,
yeah,
and like being in the ring or not the ring, being on the mats and sparring and people. There's so much that you learn on the mats that you can only learn there. So like we can go back and forth and try to
right.
explain to people, oh yeah, if you do this, you're gonna reduce fear. When you're on the mat and you have to go through those rounds multiple times, you get that point across very, very easily. And so I think that's also an aspect to it too, where it's like doing the thing will help you face the thing. Is that courage that you
That's
build
true.
up by doing
That's a
the
good
thing.
point. Yeah, that's true. And that's also why I think it's important that in these in combat arts that you have the experience of sparring. A lot of people, I teach boxing a lot, but I refuse to teach fitness boxing because they might do things like hit the bag for 6 minutes. Well, that's not going to be very good for your technique.
Mm,
And you need to get it. You need at some point, maybe after 6 7 weeks of practice with a good coach of getting some controlled sparring in, and then because that's part of what it's about is overcoming your fear, and yes, when you come out of there, yeah. So,
mm,
but a lot of a lot of what's called collar boxing in this country is
Mm.
martial is there's no sparring really. There's nothing, you don't really get that. And
Mm.
that's what you're looking to. It's like the red. Do you ever? Here's a good book to read. Read The Red Badge of Courage
Ooh, that's a good
by
one.
Hart. It's a really good novel, great novel about American Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that the guy can't wait to get in the battle, and the first time he runs, right, and he's like, can't believe he did that, and second time things are different, but over overcoming your fear like that is
It's very important.
yeah, it really is empowering too, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Recognizing, but not that
Absolutely.
so don't forget about freaking out. That's my
Mm.
next book.
That's a slightly better title than than the one.
Don't
Um,
forget about freaking out.
I think one thing I've also learned about doing sports in any my broad doing sports as I was a kid is that you learn more from defeats than you actually do from winning. You know, from winning feels great. You know, you work hard, you want to win, you want to
Yeah,
succeed in front of your
yeah,
friends. But when you lose, is when you really have that self introspection about yourself, and it's really asks you how much do you want this? Do you want it enough to actually go back in the ring after you've lost?
right,
So what's the
yeah,
question I have for you is there what some things that you've learned from teaching, from coaching, or for even practicing yourself about what
yeah.
defeat can teach you?